Look, you don't need to hire a professional photographer to get amazing artist photos. If you have a high-end camera, or if you're just using your phone, I'm going to show you how to take press shots that make you look like an established artist. But I can't do that sitting here, so let's do this in the photo studio. Welcome back to the Self-Made Artist series. I'm Orf, and today we're talking about artist photography. Because honestly, if your photos don't look good, it's a lot harder for people to take you seriously. My job today is to break down how to capture high-quality press shots, whether using a professional camera and lighting like mine, or if you're just using your smartphone and some natural light. Now, something to note, if this is your first introduction to shooting your own press photos, and you already have opportunities as an artist that require press shots, I always recommend hire a professional because it does take time and experience to learn how to do this well. But if you practice enough at home, you can learn this skill, and then you can even use it to help artists in your area as well. Okay, section 1. This is the basics of artist photography. The first thing to understand, lighting is everything. Whether you're indoors or outdoors, good lighting makes the biggest difference. Now there's lots of different lighting techniques and styles to learn, but in this video, I'll break down the most basic so you can begin to understand the fundamentals. If you'd like to see a more in-depth video on the different lighting styles used in photo and film, leave a comment below. I'll tackle it in a later video. So first, let's talk about a few of the most used lighting techniques. Number 1, flat lighting. So what is it and why would you use it? Well, this is flat lighting. Flat lighting provides even illumination with minimal shadows, creating soft and polished look. This basically means that I am totally lit top to bottom. I don't have any shadows on either side of my face. It's ideal for artist press photos when a clean, approachable, and professional aesthetic is needed, such as for album covers, promotional materials, or social media profiles. The best way to achieve this is to have your key light and your fill light at equal strengths. So that means your key light and your fill light, whichever one's on your left and right, they're at equal power strength so that the light is hitting you in the exact same way. So, as I said, the best way to do this is to have each of your lights that are facing the subject at equal strengths. That way, you are creating the light that's on my face balanced across everything. If you're only working with one light, make sure it's above your camera, facing down in the center of the subject so the light spills on either side. So this light as over the camera as I can get in my small apartment, but it's going to create the same idea here. Now you are going to get some shadows under the chin, and if you have a secondary light you can add a fill there, but for the most part this is a DIY flat light. Now if you're going to do this with your iPhone and you're trying to create a flat light, stand in front of a window evenly centered to your window so that all the light is going to hit you evenly. Alright, number 2, Rembrandt lighting. What is Rembrandt lighting and why would you use it? Well, this is Rembrandt lighting. Rembrandt lighting features a distinct triangle of light on one of the cheeks, adding depth, dimension, and cinematic quality, right here. It's perfect for artistic or moody portraits that require a balance between drama and realism, often used when an artist wants to express emotion or a strong personal narrative. You'll notice Rembrandt lighting used everywhere once it's pointed out to you, but it's definitely best to use when it's a little bit more cinematic or moody of an artist brand. Now the way you get your Rembrandt light is using your key light, the most powerful light that you use, at a 33-degree off-center and a 33-degree up angle pointing down at your subject or yourself if you're doing this on your own. So just to show you, once again, my key light now is 33 degrees off-center from my axis, and it's 33 degrees up, pointing down at me, creating the, once again, triangle on the side of my face. Number 3, split lighting. What is split lighting, and why would you use it? First of all, this is split lighting. Just the way that it looks, I'm splitting my face in half. One side is dark, one side is light. Now if you're doing this DIY in your apartment or your living space, it's really important not to have any other lights in the room if you're going to achieve this. Now we have a few white walls where it's bouncing back this nice light back at me, so it's not exactly dark, but what you're going to try to achieve is total black, total light. So, in a more technical way, Split lighting divides the face into equal halves of light and shadow. It creates a bold and dramatic effect. This style is best used for artists looking to convey mystery, intensity, or edge in their press photos. It's often used in darker or more conceptual branding. Those are three of the most basic lighting techniques that you can use for your own press photography, but I want to talk about a few more things. This is backlight, or a hair light. Backlighting plays a crucial role in artist press photography by adding depth, separation, and a sense of dimension to the subject. It helps distinguish the artist from the background, preventing a flat look while creating a more dynamic and professional image. Backlighting can also add a subtle glow or rim light effect, enhancing the mood and reinforcing the artistic identity. In addition, the backlight provides the separation needed for a photo editor to seamlessly cut out your press photo from its background, to be used in an infinite amount of use cases, like event and festival flyers, press releases, and any kind of graphic design you can imagine. So, we've talked about key lights, we've talked about the backlight, but let's now talk about the purpose of the fill light. Fill lighting is essential in artist press photography for balancing shadows and maintaining detail in the subject's face. It softens harsh contrasts created by the key light, ensuring a natural and flattering look while preserving depth. The intensity of the fill light can be adjusted to create anything from high fashion, polished aesthetic to a more dramatic, moody atmosphere. By controlling the shadows without eliminating them completely, fill lighting helps shape the artist's features while maintaining the intended mood of the shot. So, as I have my key light and my backlight, I'm going to go and turn on my fill light. So now we have the key light, the fill light on turned very low, and the backlight. Now, the intensity of the fill light plays a huge role. At low doses and in the right scene, it can really maintain the moodiness. It can maintain the shadows. It can maintain the vibe of the image. When turned up with much more power, you can now get into the flat lighting territory as we spoke about earlier. It is very, very important that you keep in mind your artist brand when deciding which lighting style you're going to use. If you're an edgier artist in techno or dark genres, for example, you might want to reach for a split light, as it's naturally more contrasted and mystery and dark. But if you're in genres like pop or folk, a flat light might work way better. Always keep in mind what you're trying to convey with your brand. Let's move on to composition and framing. So this is like how to position yourself and make your shots look intentional. Look, take it from me, I'm not the most photogenic individual. Naturally why I chose to pick up the camera and stand behind it as opposed to be in front of it. Now that being said, there's certainly some things that you can do to get better shots for yourself. Things that I do for myself so that I look more presentable on screen. First and foremost, and especially when it comes to your press photography at home, whatever you choose for that background, choose something different for your outfit. If my background is black, choose something white. Naturally, the white's going to stand out better. It's going to give the editor an easier job to cut yourself out of the background or yourself. Naturally, if you pick all black and your background's all black, it's going to be much harder without some serious lights. Filling the frame. Now, this is a term we use in photography and videography to basically say, don't leave too much stuff on the sides for the viewer to get distracted by. Now, and the purpose of this video, what I'm showing, it's naturally a little bit wider so I can give you the kind of behind the scenes as I'm setting this up. But if you're taking these press shots for yourself, you want to make sure that your subject, yourself, is the most predominant thing in the image. If there's things like this that are on the side, these are distracting the viewer. If there's other things around the frame, they are just going to distract from the image. Also, if you're going to take your press photos for yourself at home, vertical. You're taking portrait shots of yourself, camera should be vertical. Again, I'm going to do this for the purpose of this video in wide, but naturally you'd want to turn it on its side. The next thing I want to talk about is headroom, and I see it all the time. People are taking press shots, or even if they're not press shots, even if they're just promotional shots or shots from the club or whatever it is, they're leaving way too much room on the top of this image, of headroom. It's distracting to the viewer. So if you notice where I put myself, there's like just a little bit of room so that you're not constantly looking up what's above my head. So posing and expression. These are a few simple tips to avoid looking awkward and make your photos feel a lot more natural. First of all, shoot timed multiple shots. So putting your camera on a timer and have it shoot 9 images over a set period of time, so you can move in between and then catch a few fleeting moments. The more you try to pose to your camera, the more unnatural I found it to look. But if you can catch kind of a moment where like I'm in between the shot, it looks so much more natural and human because I'm not trying to pose for that particular moment in that millisecond of it taking that photo. So I call these catching fleeting moments. And this not only works with just you, but this also works with clients that you'll work with in the future, other artists you'll work with in the future who will always tell you they're not photogenic, and the reality is they're probably not, just like me, but that doesn't mean you can't get a good photo from them or for them. So that also brings me to my last tip. Shoot a ton. Storage is cheap now, and you can shoot 200 images of yourself, which is on a timer, 9 shots in a burst at a time. And then once you bring it back into your photo editing software, I can quickly go through them all and XX, I don't want any of these, and then you'll find a few of those gems that even you are gonna like as somebody that really hates how they look in photographs. It's just the reality. If you shoot a ton, you're gonna get a lot more great shots for yourself. So let me show you a practical example on my camera in photo mode as I take a few photos of myself. In this section, I'm going to talk about shooting with a professional camera like mine. Know your tools. This is going to change, but a great place to start for you is f4 so that almost all of your subject is in focus. The lowest ISO you can shoot from so there's no artificial noise in your image, and a shutter speed of at least 125. Now, if your artist wants to move more, or if you want to move even faster, you kind of want to up your shutter speed 1/200, 1/300, the higher the better. Now the main thing is you want the lowest ISO so you're not getting noise into your image. You want the aperture high enough that everything is in focus, and you want your shutter speed high enough so that you get crisp, high quality shots. Now let's talk about the lens choice because it does make a difference. So I wouldn't typically use a 35mm lens, which is on right now, which is the purpose of shooting this video, to shoot the press photos. The lens choices that I would typically reach for when it comes to shooting my own press photography or press photography for other artists is a 50mm because it is the most natural looking to the eye. The other one that I would use is a prime 85mm, and this is my favorite. Right now we're using a 35mm lens, and it's a little bit more artificial than what I would shoot a typical press shot with. So here's an 85mm that I just put on. Now, because it's an 85mm, naturally I'm going to have to walk my camera back a little bit more, but you can already tell that it's compressed the background by a significant margin. See how that looks? Still can't even get me in it. With anything, there's going to be a degree of you moving around trying to figure out how this is going to work best for you. I'm going to go and raise the height. So here's what an 85mm looks like. And as I said previously, if you're going to shoot these for yourself, for the purpose of the video, I have it wide. But you're going to want to turn your camera vertical so it's shooting in portrait mode. Just like you're accustomed to swiping through your reels. That's the way that you're going to shoot. Vertical versus horizontal, what you're watching in right now. So that's an 85. That's my preferred look for an artist photograph. Let's take a few shots while I'm here so I can use them for my brand. Let's see. artist press photography, the choice between a 50mm and 85mm lens affects composition, depth of field, and overall subject representation. A 50mm lens offers a natural field of view similar to the human eye, making it great for versatile environmental portraits where the artist is placed within a scene. It provides a balanced perspective with minimal distortion, ideal for lifestyle shots or press photos that include background context. An 85mm lens, on the other hand, is a short telephoto lens that compresses the background and creates a more flattering, intimate portrait. This makes it perfect for high-quality headshots or close-up artist portraits where subject isolation and a professional look is desired. All right, moving on. Let's talk about RAW versus JPEG. Shooting in RAW gives you more flexibility when editing. Now, it's a bigger file size, but absolutely worth it. The difference between RAW and a JPEG file comes down to image quality and the editing flexibility. RAW files contain uncompressed data straight from the camera sensor, preserving maximum detail, color information, and dynamic range. This makes them ideal for editing as they allow for greater adjustments in exposure, color correction, and shadow recovery without any loss of quality. JPEG files, on the other hand, are compressed and processed in camera, resulting in smaller file sizes, but with reduced editing flexibility and potential loss of detail. Shooting in RAW ensures the highest quality images, giving photographers and artists full creative control in post-production to refine their press photos for a polished, professional look. If you're going to do these at home, if you're going to shoot your own press photographs, and you may need to send these photos to other event companies or festivals where they have a graphic designer that's going to be working with this image, I highly recommend shooting in RAW because it gives that editor the highest degree of quality and most room to work with your photo. All right, section 3. This is shooting with a smartphone. I'm going to use an iPhone, but you can use an Android if you want. First of all, portrait mode versus regular mode. You should be using portrait mode for this because it is designed specifically for this purpose. You can use third-party apps like Lightroom Mobile, which is going to give you tons more control when it comes to editing those shots. And using natural light, if you don't have any fancy equipment, it's not a problem. I'm going to show you how to work with what you got. Now, we've done this whole video up until this point with professional gear. Now, I'm going to show you how to do all of these same things with an iPhone. It's not something that I ever really did often because when I jumped into photography and video work, I made an effort and a point to learn professional tools first. So if anything, it's going to give us a more accurate idea of someone that's never really used an iPhone for press photographs. Now, I do understand the basics of lighting and stuff, so that kind of gives me the edge. But I have never really used my phone at all for press photographs, so this might actually be a pretty good comparison. The important part about doing the iPhone photography press shot at home is to make sure that behind you, the wall is blank. Again, we turn our phone like this, but the important things that you're going to want to take into consideration is somewhere in your house that has a total blank wall. Try to get your phone up on a tripod unless you can rig something where you can set your phone up straight. Position yourself in a place in your house that has a big window in front of you if you're trying to get the flat light that we spoke about where it's even light across everything. What I'm noticing is there might be a few places in your house that could work, but you don't have adequate lighting. So it's really going to come down to you and how well that you can position yourself and maneuver yourself in a place with natural lighting to get a great look. It's not going to work for everybody as I'm sitting here trying and learning, but you'll have to do the best that you can. So just to show you, in the house that I'm in, there's a big window here. There's a big plant that I'd have to move over. Now, my background, as we saw, isn't blank. The problem with it not being blank is that it's really hard to take a press photo and be able to cut myself out of the background. Also, my other issue here right now is I don't have a tripod for a smartphone. I have them for my cameras, but I don't have one for a smartphone. So I'm going to try to use this. Now, keep in mind, blank background, window with ample amount of sunlight that's going to come through it. It's actually not the right time of day for me to shoot this in my house with natural light, but hopefully I'll be able to show you the idea anyway, and you'll be able to take that knowledge and turn it into press photos for yourself. The other thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that where your phone is positioned, where you rig it up or you put it on your tripod, it's at about chest height. So that when you take the photo, I have waist or thighs up, depending on where you shoot it. So I 100% don't recommend doing this, but I'm going to try it out anyway. I don't recommend it because you'll likely break your phone. But I found a cutting board that's going to give me the height, and I'm going to balance it right up on top of here, and then I'm going to throw it into portrait mode on a timer and see if I can take an appropriate shot. If I was a client and somebody took that photo for me, I would be absolutely cheesed. That being said, we're talking about DIY yourself in your house and the tools that you have. So with what I shot there, with a basic flat light, everything is in focus. I will be able in the editing room, and I'll show you that in the next video, probably next week, the editing side of this, I will be able to cut myself out of that photo. Now that was a flat light. I am perfectly looking at the window, and it's giving me even light across my entire body. Now I'm going to try a split light. I'm going to use the exact same window that I had behind me, but I'm going to position myself a little bit different. Now, as I said, if you're taking this, you're going to probably want to maneuver a lot of the things in your house so that you have a plain background. Now, this is obviously not that. But a neat thing about this is that it's actually providing me a backlight as well, or the hair light as we talked about earlier. So we're going to try to take another shot. That's a basic split lighting. And my position to this window is it's hitting me straight on this way. So this is light and this is dark. So let's try that. Now I just want you to see the rigging setup that I have here. If you're going to do this with your iPhone, get an iPhone tripod. It's just going to help you so much more. Again, because I do this with a real camera, I never really invested in things like this. So, but just to show you what you could also do, I have the dog's treat bowl with a plate with a glass, and then I put my phone up like this in portrait mode in the front facing me. So the most janky thing that you could think about, but keep in mind the tips that we talked about through this whole video. I know this isn't a really great example of how to do this, but it just goes to show the effort that goes into taking a professional press photo for yourself. So if you don't have good places in your house that you could do this, maybe you are going to want to hire a professional. I'm noticing if I had to do this with my iPhone, I would probably hate myself. But it is what it is. So as artists, we're trying our best to do all these things on our own. So hopefully these are a few tips keeping in mind what I've been talking about to help you take your game up just ever so slightly. And going from the split light, if you're going to use the same window once again and you want to achieve that Rembrandt lighting, I can pivot myself a little bit and you'll start to see that triangle appear on this side of my face. So, as we talked about before, the Rembrandt is 33 degrees off center and 33 degrees up. And you will get this. The more precise that light is, the more precise this triangle is going to be. But for now, you could use it like this. Once again, I'm going to try to position my rig, go in a way that's going to allow me to position my camera where I'll be getting that Rembrandt light on my face. So once again, and again, I know how silly this looks, but we're just going over the technicals. Honestly, as an artist, as a creative, as a photographer, I would look at these photos and, to be quite honest, for my personal brand, which is all about high quality, I would never in a million years use these photos. Now again, on the editing side, you can do some pretty nifty things if you're good enough and if you have enough experience and you know your tools well. But at the end of the day, we really want to get it right in camera first. And I understand that these examples are not exactly that or even close to that. But the key takeaways I want you to take away from these iPhone examples: big window, lots of light, your positioning, plain background, and if you don't have the tools, get creative of rigging up where you're going to position it. If you can do that, if you can practice on the editing side, you can get away with it. But at the end of the day, as a rough side-by-side comparison, I'm gonna say the camera is gonna take it every time. Like, camera with some professional lighting, and you're gonna win every time. Not to say you can't do it, but I think we can see in this video that professional, great gear, good know-how is gonna win over your iPhone. All right. If you want to build a strong artist brand, quality photos are a must. But as you've seen, you don't need an expensive setup to make it happen. Whether using a camera or just your phone, understanding the right techniques will improve your photos instantly. Let me know in the comments, are you using a camera or a phone for your artist photos? And send me a few. I'd love to check them out. As always, my name is Worf. This is the Self-Made Artist series. And here we try to get you from an artist that loves music and that understands that it's no longer just about the music, it is now about everything else, and then turning all of those skills that you learn, like video and press photography, for example, into marketable skills that you can make a media production company out of. You can be your own creative director. You can help other artists in your area with these skills. So that's it. I'm Worf. This is Generation Media Group, and we'll see you next week on the Self-Made Artist series. Peace.